911, this call is being recorded. What is your emergency?
This is Officer Mariana Garcia. I've come under heavy fire at the Chiriesa family vineyards. We got an officer down and I'm pinned down on all sides. I need immediate assistance.
Ready or Not is an environmental storytelling masterpiece. It embodies the phrase, show, don't tell. There is a compelling and powerful story in this game. However, it's only there if you can stop and take a few moments to notice it all. Hidden beneath Ready or Not's tactical FPS gameplay lies unspeakable horrors hidden in plain sight. Today, we'll be diving into the sinister and shocking details in the lore and story of Ready or Not. Ready or Not is a SWAT sim-styled, tactical first-person shooter developed and published by Void Interactive. The game was released as early access in late 2021 and had an official release in December of 2023. The game is heavily influenced by and considered to be the spiritual successor of the SWAT series. Ready or Not puts you in the shoes of a SWAT team commander in the city of Los Sueños. While Los Sueños may be fictional, it is very clearly inspired by the city of Los Angeles and the state of California as a whole. The gameplay is solid. It requires a slow, methodical approach to tackle its challenges, forcing the player to stop, think, and tackle each level on a room-by-room basis. Move too quick, forget to check a corner, or cover a sector, and this game does an amazing job of conveying the true terror in real-world CQB. Despite having an entire SWAT fire team at your command, you never feel overpowered. In fact, quite the opposite is true. A bullet fired from a drug addict is just as deadly as a one fired from a bona fide veteran SWAT operator. This game reminds you of your mortality, and just how quickly one small mistake can cost you the lives of your team and even yourself. But this video is not about the gameplay, rather, the story behind the gameplay, and the enticing way Void Interactive chose to tell it. Picking up where we left off, Carriers of the Vine sticks out in my mind as one of the more emotionally striking maps. You're not given much information, other than one officer dead and another pinned down. As your team approaches the compound, you see a police cruiser crashed in a ditch, likely belonging to one of the initial responding officers. As the name implies, it's a vineyard, a nice one at that, tucked away in the quiet countryside. However, upon arrival, not all is as it seems. Oddly shaped bushes bloom bright flowers alongside white statues. Off to the side, a makeshift shooting range can be seen alongside a can of ammo. Whoever lives here is armed and likely knows how to use their weapons. Sure enough, you're greeted by a storm of gunfire, just like the fallen officers before you. However, your team quickly dispatches the threat and makes entry.
Explosive. Dropping!
As you progress through the compound, you begin to notice things. The residents have a uniform, white gowns, sandals, short hair, possibly a mask. There is a lack of electricity as well. No cell phones, no TVs, or computers. For whatever reason, the residents here have seemed to do away with a lot of modern technology. Furthermore, all the residents are women. What's more, they're angry. They mock your fallen officers, they're passively resistant and verbally defiant. There isn't anything you can do to me that hasn't been done already, one of them sneers at you. You push through the bunk bedrooms, pantries and bathrooms. You walk past the empowering but vindictive quotes. Some of these people would rather die than surrender. They are armed to the teeth and some are wearing Kevlar vests. Another room, more effigies, more symbols, more angry residents. It's all the same until you breach a door to a room with much more sinister contents. The first thing you notice are the faces, then the writing. Look a little more and you realize there are targets. Each picture is a plan. Written on or by their photo is a list of their transgressions. And if these writings are to be true, these people pictured here are truly some deplorable human beings. Some of these writings include notes about routine or what can be used to bait the target. It can also be seen that some of these men victimized members of the compound. Pressing further into the compound, through the rooms full of pressing down a stairwell, we make a chilling discovery in the cellar. Behind all the wine and storage, we can see something, or someone else was stored here. A pile of clothes, presumably male clothing, is piled into two corners. Nearby, there is a set of shackles chained to a wall. It doesn't take a genius to see that this was used as a holding area for victims of the compound. Trapped away in a dark, damp cellar, shackles on their ankles and wrists, waiting anxiously for whatever may come next. If the carriers of the vine are right, if these people are who they think they are, it's hard to feel bad. Behind this building, in an overgrown corner of the property, lies a group of fresh, shallow graves. We can see that the collective of women that live here have seen some of their plans through to completion. A disturbing discovery, but nonetheless, the compound is yet to be secure. There is one more building in the rear of the property that needs to be swept. It's a church, or it used to be. The building has seen better days.
Setting it now. I'll do it.
Opening on the right. Good here.
Breaching through the door, you see the church pews, more effigies than ever, and her. I don't know who or what she is, but at first glance it seems they worship her. A chill runs down your spine, but you continue down the stairs. Clearing the basement, we find bloody tools, a cage, and more shackles. God only knows what went on down here, but I have an idea. After debrief, using all the information provided to us, we can see a much clearer picture of what was going on in the vineyards. The cult is led by Elaine Raskin and Eve Nader. Raskin was a former Fed, carried from Crisis LLC, made for women with no other option. However, in 2016, the company shut down. Nader was filed as a missing persons back in 2011 after she left her husband and child. While exact details are unclear to me, at some point, Raskin and Nader began recruiting women into their group, possibly bringing in beneficiaries of the defunct LLC. These women armed themselves on a vineyard and began plotting for revenge. They began planning operations to kidnap, torture, and kill men who were rapists and spousal abusers. One by one, they carefully executed their plans and brought their victims back to the compound, where they were tortured, possibly by the very same women they victimized. After torture, they would be ritualistically sacrificed to whatever deity this is, the bodies then buried on the property. It is unknown when exactly the group became a cult with its uniformity, separation from society, and ritualistic practices. The group only warranted a police response after two of the members were involved in a physical altercation in the city. While I initially thought this may have been a botched attempt to kidnap another target, listening to this audio, it almost seems as if one of the cult members ran into a former abuser and couldn't help but confront him. A bystander caught the plate of the vehicle the cult members were driving as they fled the scene. LSPD traced the plate to the compound and 2 officers were sent to respond. And, well, you know the rest. This is a tough one to process. Yeah, murder is wrong, we all know that, but these women, they weren't just senselessly killing innocent people. They were getting revenge on people who committed horrible, unspeakable acts against them. If someone had assaulted my mother, sister, wife, or lover in such a horrific manner, I would certainly be thinking of a way to enact vengeance on them myself. The cult members weren't inherently bad people. They were desperate, vulnerable women who found themselves in horrible situations with nowhere else to go. They found a community that gave them security and solidarity, things they likely hadn't had in a long time. Perhaps they knew what they were doing was wrong, but they were indoctrinated by the cult and made to see past their conflicting emotions. Or maybe they didn't care for morality at all, and they saw the cult as a way to achieve their retribution. Whatever the case may be, Void Interactive illustrates here that whatever you may encounter in Los Sueños isn't always so black and white. Morality is a dying concept in the city. The guys in cyber got a lead for something big. Amos Vall, an adult film star, is allegedly involved in a major child pornography ring. We got a warrant to hit the house and find anything connecting him to it. He's hosting a party for his daughter's 18th birthday today. Under normal circumstances, we would choose another day to minimize the chance for collateral damage. However, we can't risk him being tipped off. Vol has a well-paid and well-trained private security company on site. These aren't parking lot cops, a lot of them are prior service. We can expect resistance. Time is critical and we need to move now. Speed, surprise, violence of action, we all know the drill. Gear up and meet by the trucks. The truck arrives and the team dismounts, tactically approaching the house. It seems they were expecting us anyways, no use approaching this deliberately.
Charge ready. Setting it now.
The C2 charge detonates and you feel the shockwave rattle your bones like a gust of wind piercing through your body. Making entry, you encounter heavy resistance. Some surrender and some are neutralized. You push through a modern mansion you could only own in your dreams and happen upon a bedroom. Or is it? Seems more like a set. There was clearly some filming going on. Considering the Vol's line of work, it's not that surprising. You wonder to yourself if they were filming something on their daughter's birthday or if this is just a dedicated set room. Nevertheless, you push past the trophies and the posters. The Vols are clearly quite proud of their work and continue past the gym with the $1 million view. Advances are met with heavy resistance. We're clearly, loudly, and repeatedly identifying ourselves as law enforcement, but not all of the guards surrender on command. A lot of these hired security guards are willing to die for their employer. Under different circumstances, the bravery these men show in the face of our team could be seen as admirable and even courageous, but how could hired men be so devoted as to risk life in prison or even death for Vol? It's just unusual. This seems way beyond the Call of Duty expected for any security guard. Fanatical security aside, we push down the stairs onto the lower floor. This building is a nightmare to clear. 2 of your teammates caught round to the plate. One is grazed on the arm. Another has minor abrasions on his face from the drywall and studs splintering in its direction as bullets pierce through from the next room. Pause for a gear check. We weren't expecting sustained firefights. Yellow on ammo for everyone. Pick your shots wisely. Rip a mag from my back panel if you need to and press. This must be the birthday girl's room. One of the analysts mentioned something about the father and daughter not being on good terms. Who knows? Looking at her room, she seems like a good kid. There's notes about her scheduling, and judging by the textbooks and tutors, she's exceptionally studious and well organized. Whatever nefarious deeds her father is associated with doesn't appear to rub off on her. What a shame. Hopefully she can pick up the pieces and continue as such. Across the hall we find Vol's office. The odor of smoke fills the room, and from the balcony door left ajar we can see a box of documents burning. The bastard was tipped off somehow. Command made a good call choosing to strike immediately. Hopefully it wasn't too late. We can assume he attempted to either wipe or take a magnet to the various hard drives scattered across the desk, but we're bagging everything. I've heard the guys in cyber worked miracles before, maybe they can do it again. Down yet another stairwell. You feel the exhaustion begin to set in. Sweat beating down your head. A light layer of condensation on your goggles. Your arms beginning to ache from the constant high ready of your rifle. Looks like this is the ground floor. Clear this in the basement and we're done. We'll leave secondary sweeps and site exploitation to the follow-on teams. Our team needs medical. And a drink. The ground floor hosts a party most kids would only dream of. Live DJ. Mountains of presents, balloons everywhere. Vol went all out for his daughter. We detained the confused guest, family members, and the DJ. We stack on the stairs leading to the basement. Red on ammo, team wounded and exhausted. You pass point man a fresh mag and give the command to move into the basement. Let's wrap up this shit show of a raid. Breaching the door, you're greeted with dim, red lighting. An odd choice. Didn't think we'd need our nods on this one. Then, it hits you. The sourness in your nose. The unmistakable odor of decomposition. Somewhere in this basement, there's a body rotting. Door front, door right. Blue front on me. Red takes right. On my move.
Setting it now. Deploying it.
Immediately the smell hits you, choking you, like a shockwave of CS gas. The decomp odor is coming from this room. First, you notice the shoes, much too small for an adult, then the child-sized clothing, and the bear. It looks like hastily they were trying to hide it. You feel sick, you feel angry, you feel rage. Red team calls you from the next room. You're gonna want to see this. It's a child's room. No, it's a set made to look like a child's room. There's studio lighting in here. You know what they did here, but you try not to think about it. The job isn't done. In the connecting hallway, you notice books? No, DVDs with handwritten names and numbers and symbols. This isn't. Surely these can't be. Oh god, some of the numbers are as low as 5. Point man takes a knee to compose himself. I can't blame him. Next man up. One more door. Let's finish this. On my command.
Got an opening here.
Someone swears in confusion under their breath. We're not entirely sure what we're looking at. The girl, she's the daughter, right? Yeah, that's her. But what is this? Is it art? A shrine? Or something else entirely? It's all too much right now. With the final room clear, your team RVs on the ground floor and prepares to call scene secure. But wait, Vol was tipped off? We don't know where in the chain the leak is, but whoever it was must have been connected enough to know about it and then alert Vol prior to our arrival. If he has friends powerful enough to tip him off about the raid, who's to say his friends aren't powerful enough to get him out of this? It happens all the time, an otherwise solid case dismissed or thrown out over a technicality or a violation of some obscure policy, procedure, or law. He is clearly able to hire an amazing legal team. Depending on how far this rabbit hole goes, this is going to implicate a lot of people, maybe even some of his powerful friends. Life in prison as a sex offender is a special type of hell not even Dante could see in his Inferno, but what if Vol never gets to see it? The thought of this man walking free fills you with feelings words just can't describe. We speak quietly. We speak out of view. Maybe our body cams simultaneously malfunction and cease recording. What if then Vol, realizing his fate, slips his restraints and produces a pistol from his waist that we failed to catch in our initial pat-down? What if the immediate surprise catches us off guard, and in response we're left with no other choice than to neutralize the threat? These things happen, I suppose, and after all, morality is a dying concept in this city. This mission is infamous in the Ready or Not community. Void Interactive illustrates a dark and deeply disturbing story, hidden behind the guise of a young woman's 18th birthday party. This mission earns its infamy by shock value alone, however there's so much more to this story than just some creep peddling in porn. While there's too much to analyze every detail, let's go over the most obvious. Vol was a child predator producing, collecting, and likely distributing child pornography. The extent of involvement with his family is unknown, however I expect his wife knew some things. His daughter, on the other hand, I'm unsure of. While it is clear that Vol and his daughter don't get along, I wouldn't entirely attribute this to his work. There's evidence of Vol's daughter, Janie, showing a longing for her biological mother and some disdain toward her stepmother. This is not out of the ordinary. Divorce is tough on kids, and they're often too young to completely understand or process these emotions. These unresolved feelings could have manifested through feelings of resentment to her father and stepmother. The Vols made no attempt to hide their work. In fact, they're clearly proud of it and what they've accomplished. If my parents were famous adult film stars back when I was a teen, school would have been a nightmare. This could be yet another reason why Jenny resents her father, and explain why she's so deeply dedicated to her studies. If school is hell, just bury yourself in your books and your work as a distraction. There is plenty of clues showing how out of touch Vol is with Janie, and how she didn't even want the party. But that's not the focus of this. Amos Vol received a tip that his house was going to be raided. He frantically tried in vain to eliminate any evidence of wrongdoing. Clear example of this is the basement. We see a floor dug up, stuffed with barrels, clothing, and stuffed animals. We see concrete being mixed and prepared nearby. We can assume the barrels contain the bodies, evidence, or leftovers of the children. They were going to put the barrels and other evidence in the pit and seal it with concrete. The hopscotch grid, children's clothing, candy bars, and bedrolls led us to believe that children were held captive here. The film set made to look like a child's bedroom is most likely where much of the production was held. The collection of DVDs is the most disturbing thing in the basement, even more than the pit of bodies. While there is a horrible number of barrels in the pit, and we can assume each barrel contains a body, there are hundreds of DVDs. The DVDs are the real smoking gun here. We can see the names of the victim, followed by the age, and some symbol. Each one of these DVDs is a different victim, and when you stop and you look, you realize the scope of Amos Vol's massive operation. Who knows how many of these children were killed or sold off? We can only assume the reason they attempted to hide the barrels in the basement pit was because they had no time to dispose of them properly. This could then explain why the security is so desperate to stop you. They know what they've done. They know they've been caught. Rather than face arrest, court, and prison, they would choose to die instead. The last room is the most perplexing one. While the other rooms paint a clear picture of their purpose, the photo development room is not so clear. This is where Amos Vol developed the photos he took, but deeper in the room we see what I can only describe as a shrine, a collage of chopped up photos used to make 2 mosaics of his daughter Janie. Alongside them, scribbled on the walls, are the words like virgin and fragile. The writing implies this to be a monument to the purity of his daughter. Perhaps in a world like Vol's, where everything is corrupted and perverted, he was able to find solace in the purity of his daughter. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe the mosaics aren't so much his peace in a dark world, but rather the last bit of purity in his life that needs to be snuffed out. There's an old saying, an old rule of the internet. The more beautiful and pure a thing is, the more satisfying it is to corrupt it. Maybe Amos was waiting for the day she finally came of age so that he could bring her into the world of adult films and worse. Or maybe he wanted to keep sacred the last bit of purity he had in his life. There's a bedroll on the floor in this room and it has a man's shirt on it. It can either be where Vol would lay and admire his creation, or be the bedroll of one of the victims where they were held captive until needed. Who can say for sure? Whatever the case, this is the most infamous and disturbing level in Ready or Not, for good reason. Los Sueños is a city in despair. While in the past it thrived, in its current condition, the city is dying. It's a rotting husk of its former self. Los Sueños has issues on every front. A housing and homelessness epidemic, political unrest, pockets of local population unhappy with the policies of their elected officials, environmental issues ranging from droughts and wildfires to hurricanes in the upcoming update. Sanitation workers are on strike, causing garbage to pile up in the streets, and civilian morale in the city is at an all-time low. These issues compound together to create the perfect storm for Ready or Not to take place in a believable and compelling fashion. How much of the events of the game are triggered by or enabled by environmental factors? If things were different, would these people still be as desperate? Would the city stand by and watch their home degraded to a lawless wasteland? The butterfly effect and the broken windows theory are constantly in my mind when examining the story. If this politician had approached his policy differently, would a group of disgruntled veterans not turn to violence so easily? How many lives could have been saved if the people of Los Sueños fought for their city and their government? Did the citizens give up, or were they frogs in boiling water, unable to notice the slow decline of their city until it got out of control? As I said before, Ready or Not is an environmental storytelling masterpiece. It is easy to play this game as nothing more than a tactical FPS, and that's fine. Ready or Not is great at that. However, it's a shame to think that people might play Carriers of the Vine and see it as nothing more than just a weird cult on a farm, or see Valley of the Dolls as nothing more than the home of a rich, creepy photographer. There is a certain finesse Void Interactive achieves by doing this. They didn't shove in a bunch of forced exposition through cutscenes and branching dialogue trees. There is some context in the briefing if you even choose to look at it, and the rest of the story is placed as small details in the level for you to discover. You can play this entire game and miss some or most of the story behind it. It's almost as if the developers said, yes, we have a compelling and powerful story tackling some of the most controversial subjects in law enforcement and society as a whole. No, we don't care enough to shove it in your face. It's there for you, if you look long enough. In a day and age where developers will ham-fist their narrative down your throat, it was refreshing to see Ready or Not's approach. While playing this game, I didn't feel like I was being told a story. I felt like I was discovering one. I struggle to think of a game that can achieve this without hiding its lore in an item description or placing it in a literal in-game history book. It is because of that I firmly believe Void Interactive created an environmental story masterpiece with Ready or Not. Thanks for watching. I just want to say, if you like these topics and you want to know more, Shane Please Shut Up has videos on just about every detail in the game and goes into way more depth than I do. He is the subject matter expert on Ready or Not lore. Seriously, check him out. He connects dots I didn't even know exist. Also, if you like this video and want to see more like it, subscribe and leave a comment about what game or subject you'd like to see explored. I'm always looking for new games and universes to immerse myself into. Anyways, thanks again, and have a good one.